The ocean is a massive part of our world, covering more than 70% of the surface on Earth. Because of its vastness, it houses some of the most fascinating species that we know, and they are in need of protecting. Marine conservation programs have been collaborating to protect these ecosystems. However, due to oversights toward the current state of marine ecosystems, it may be in worse shape than we thought. Danica Kleber's recent research may change our current views of marine and freshwater ecosystems, and therefore affect conservation efforts. Danica is a UBC graduate student working at Project Seahorse, an organization that strives to conserve the world's coastal marine ecosystems. During her time at UBC, she has written a review proclaiming that an oversight of women's contributions in the fishing industry might be detrimental to the effectiveness of current marine conservation projects. Danica describes that when we picture fishing,
so mostly when we think of fishing, we think of people in boats. They throw a hook over the side, or they're dragging nets behind them, or maybe they're putting traps down and then they're pulling them up.
These are not the only type of fishing practices that exist. In many cultures, women fish with a technique called gleaning.
Gleaning is a bit different because you're actually walking. So you're either walking on in intertidal rocky areas, or maybe mudflats, seagrass beds, or even reef tops. And what they do is they just basically look around. They're stooped over, and when they see an animal, they'll pick it up.
The act of physically walking through shallow waters disrupts near-shore habitats like the coral reefs.
Some people have suggested that especially walking on reef tops could have an effect. In the Philippines especially, you'll see people go out with machetes and or hooks, and they'll hook up coral, and that's obviously damaging to the coral. It's called kai-kai. So it's a sort of raking of the habitat. And so a lot of these are actually legal because they've been considered to be detrimental to the habitat.
Coral reefs provide a home for 25% of marine life, and destruction of this habitat can have a large effect on the many species finding sanctuary within the coral. Gleaning targets intertidal species such as snails, slugs, clams, mussels, and oysters. Although these species may prove to be a delicious dinner, many times they are important in balancing marine ecosystems.
So in some cases, invertebrates have been shown to be a keystone species, so we say.
Keystone species are much like the pillar that support a building. Simply removing them can ultimately lead to the collapse of the entire ecosystem. Even gleaned species that are not recognized as keystone species can be important to the ecosystem. For example, clams and mussels help keep the phytoplankton population in check. It is common for phytoplankton to overpopulate an area and block light from reaching aquatic life at deeper depths. So the loss of these species can create ripple effects that extend beyond what we can anticipate.
So what you're trying to do is understand the use of all people within that community of marine resources, and to understand the impacts that conservation measures would have on all people. And so if we're only talking to half of the population, we might be missing out on the other half.
We need to look beyond the male-dominated fishing industries that drag netfuls of fish out of the ocean and include women's role in smaller-scale fisheries. Little impacts could cause mass destruction if we're not careful.